from a galaxy far, far away.
And a bookshelf straight out of the 90s.
From Thrawn to Dantooine
And everything in between. This is Legends Look Back.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Legends Look Back, a show brought to you by Utini.com, a show that's been described as a podcast for people who will absolutely fight to the death about whether or not NSYNC or Backstreet Boys are the better boy band, where we talk about all things Star Wars Legends, celebrating our rich EU history, as well as diving into lesser-known Star Wars classics. I'm your host, Jared Mays, and today I'm joined once again by the great, the legendary, Freddie C. What's up, Freddie?
Hey everyone.
Coming off a break?
Yeah, I'm putting my vote in for Backstreet Boys. So.
Oh, man. This time of year especially, when you got NSYNC Christmas that you could put on repeat, you're going to say Backstreet Boys? Get out of here, Freddie. Oh, come on. How about you? We've also got our incredible producer here to keep everything on the rails, keep us from talking about slimy naked Palpatine more times than we should. However, here we are already talking about him. Meg Dowell, how are you, Meg?
I'm great, and I love how, as you said, you're not going to talk about it. You
not
proceeded to talk about it.
Happen.
Stop talking about it. I do have the power to mute you if you talk about it again.
We did have some great conversations about him in the Discord over the last couple of weeks. Somebody showed off, I think it's a Revenge of the Sith Palpatine figure, at least the shrivelly head. Fun fact, I actually have two of those. Why? Because we had one, and then my brother lost it, so then we got another, and then we found the original, so now we've got two of them. Also, thanks to Joxy and to Wes for those subs. Appreciate it, guys. Thanks for hanging in here with us. Keeping the streak alive, for sure. Yeah, Meg, no more slimy naked palps. We are, however, going to talk about the man whose abs have made their debut on my chest for the first time tonight, wearing the shirt, the Heir to the Empire shirt. Also like that I've got Princess Leia's head on my belly button. That's especially awkward. Anyway, also this week, joined for the second week in a row, our incredible guest. She made quite the debut last episode, made quite the splash. I would say brought us into some of our most thought-provoking conversations we've ever had on Legends Look Back, all the way from the Great White North. Cheryl Bell, how are you, Cheryl?
I am well. Thank you for having me back.
Is that what people call Canada, the Great White North, or is that something else?
I'm not sure.
The land of mooses and all kinds of other things.
Mooses and poutine.
Maple syrup and poutine. I do love me some poutine. Absolutely. We got a new burger place in town. I've been 4 times. Guess how many times I've had their poutine?
0.
All 4. All 4
wow.
times. Oh, yeah. I'm dedicated to my poutine.
Me too. Favorite dictator in the world.
Oh my gosh. Well, that does it for this episode of the Poutine Podcast, where we talk about all things cheese curds and gravy. No, okay. No, instead this week, instead of just talking about fries smothered in fatty goodness, we are going to be talking about the legendary masterpiece from 1990-something. 93? Isn't this 93? The Last Command by Timothy Zahn. Last week, we got into the characters, talked about the behind-the-scenes. This week, we are going to skip right to the chase and get into the overarching questions we've got about the book. That is to say, this book, hey, if you haven't read it, if you missed the last episode, there's a variety of ways you can go back and catch up on that. We release every week on Twitch, of course. We've also got the edited video going up on YouTube. Shout out to our YouTube fans. We got a good crew over there leaving some thought-provoking discussion in the comments. We also post every week in the Legends Look Back podcast feed, as well as on Utini's Patreon. So there's a variety of ways you can get caught up. But here's the gist, okay? If you need a recap on The Last Command, it's like this. We got clones. We got military strategy. We got smugglers. We got Jeruis Sabaoth. And one heck of a twist ending. You think that about sums it up, Freddie? Anything else that needs to be said in like the TLDR of The Last Command?
Yeah, the clones are actually, I'm pretty sure they're wearing clothes in this story.
This time around. But that's why it can't quite compare to Dark Empire. I know, controversial. They were both being like published around the same time. They're kind of in direct competition with each other. So 1's in the chat if you prefer the Thrawn trilogy. 2's in the chat if you're right and prefer Dark Empire. No, I do, of course, love I love these books. Can't wait for us to talk about them more. We gave them great scores last week in our rankings. We're talking about Thrawn. We're talking about Sabayoth. We've got the introduction of the Solo twins. You got the kind of budding love interest, possibly, between Garm Bel Iblis and Mon Mothma. That's kind of a fun angle. But this week, as we talk about Thrawn, we're thinking more about his overarching, his strategy, some of the moves and maneuvers that he pulls off in this book. And boy, does Zahn do a great job at writing Thrawn this time around. Now, Freddie, let me ask you this. Which of Thrawn's tactical decisions in this book, and he makes several really witty moves, which of Thrawn's maneuvers in this book do you think was his shining moment? What was the best maneuver that Thrawn pulled off in this book?
Mine, this is a good one because I think the best one, if, as a person that works with projects all day, the least cost, most effective one, which is definitely those asteroids. I think that's probably one of the best tactics I've seen where you've got a total of like 14 asteroids and they think there's a whole bunch of them out there.
Yeah.
And then you've got Garm Bel Iblis who comes in and says, come on guys, like why would that happen? Or was it, I forget who it was.
I forget who sets them straight.
It was Card.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's right. It was Card. And he was like, "Come on, guys, think about it."
Well, he said,
like,
"We found exactly how many, exactly this many asteroids had been taken from Mirkor, right?" Yeah, it was Card because Card has got the Mirkor hook up there.
He saw them in the shipyards. He saw them working on them in the shipyards when they were
putting on the cloak.
Cheryl's always here to set us straight, whether she's in the chat or she's live on the episode. We're never gonna get any of like the factual information wrong, because Cheryl is keeping us on the rails. I like that part, too. I also like, especially the beginning of the book, when Card and Mara... Is it Card and Mara? No, who is it? It's Han, isn't it? Cheryl will set us straight, I'm sure. They're, like, watching Thrawn bomb the planet. And whatever the planet is, they're, like, setting the people straight. And, of course, Thrawn knows... I keep messing up Thrawn and Zahn. We've done 6 weeks now, 6 episodes of coverage on the Thrawn trilogy, and I'm still struggling with this. Thrawn knows that, like, they're watching him. Do you know what I'm talking about? It's right there in, like, the opening of the book, like the opening salvo. I love that they're like, no, they can't see us. We're hiding behind the asteroid or behind this moon or whatever, and yet Thrawn outsmarts them and goes for them anyway. One of these moments where you realize he's going to be one step ahead of us the entire book. How about you, Cheryl? When do you think Thrawn has his shining moment in this book?
I think the tactical maneuver that was the best was probably when they took is it Yukayo? Is that how you pronounce it?
They say Yukio in in the audiobook, but that reminds me too much of the 2000s card game. I think you know what I'm talking about with the monsters.
It's time to... Yeah, I know.
I have no idea what you're talking about. Anyways, the long-term benefits of taking that planet, because they were manufacturers of the foodstuffs. So the benefits of taking that intact was more like long-term, because then he can secure a long-term food source for his new clones that has more strategic benefit in the long run, because he needs to be able to feed his troops. So
I don't think I ever caught that they were making the food supplies, which would make this point of the book really click into place, whereas I'm reading it and thinking the opening is really slow. It actually makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, so that's like the benefit of taking it with everything intact is nothing's destroyed, and so they can just start supplying his, like, the Empire with the foodstuffs right away.
Yeah, that makes sense. One of the main mysteries that's being explored early on in the book, at least, is Luke and Card and some others are basically saying, how come all of these troops look a whole lot alike? And Luke, of course, is realizing they have the same imprint through the Force, and they're basically trying to figure out how Thrawn is able to man this entire fleet that he's just come up with out of the blue with the Katana fleet, and the mystery surrounding the clones. We're going to come back to clones before the episode is over. You know, when it comes to Thrawn in this book, though, obviously he's outsmarting them one step at a time, and it seems, honestly, like even though, they're taking Luke and Mara are taking down Sabayoth on Wayland, It really does seem like Thrawn still has the upper hand, at least from a tactical standpoint. He outsmarts their, at least the New Republic's attempts at trying to outsmart him. He sees through their ruse. Ruse? How do you say that? I said ruse, like Dr. Seuss. I realized as soon as it came out of my mouth, I don't think that's right. Thrawn sees through all of that. And then all of a sudden, okay, major spoiler here. This is your warning. We get to this point in the book, and it seems like even though Thrawn is still on top from a military standpoint, he's taken out by his right-hand man, his own personal bodyguard assassin, Rook. Cheryl, do you think that Zahn had Thrawn's death planned from the beginning? Do you think he knew, back when he was writing the early chapters to Heir to the Empire, that this is how it was going to be done? Because of course, he does have this incredible quote that this was so artistically done, and it was artistically done, but especially my first time around, it caught me off guard. How about you? Do you think this is something that Zahn had planned from the beginning?
I think so, yeah. To have Thrawn fall at the hand of those he dismissed as nothing more than a primitive species that he used as an expendable tool, that's very poetic.
Oh, okay, yeah. Thrawn eventually does come to realize in that moment that he had underestimated the Nogri. He'd been trying to suppress them, keep them under his thumb. The fact of the matter is the Nogri's loyalty was to Vader, primarily, and not to Thrawn. And it seemed like Thrawn never did quite understand that until it was too late. What about you, Freddie? Do you think that he had mapped this out from the beginning?
It's very Roman to me. Just the fact that he died at basically his right-hand man, someone he trusted, almost, I wouldn't say implicitly, but trusted enough to be around him, that lethal, right? That lethal of capabilities. But I think the way it happened too, just basically in the back, stabbed in the back, which is the most metaphorically beautiful thing that I've seen in a Star Wars book.
Yeah, it might be the best twist in a Star Wars book. Of course, there's a good twist at the end of Scoundrels. You won't spoil here. I'm trying to think of any other incredible twist. A good twist at the end of Order 66. Darth Plagueis has a good ending. I love the kind of cliffhanger ending to the Bane trilogy, but this one definitely is a shining moment in Legends to realize that, hey, this character that has really been built up as an excellent villain, he's going out after his own trilogy. 3 books is all we get. Of course, we fill in a little bit more of his backstory, and now, hey, we're getting backstory to that backstory to the backstory. As we're getting our 3rd Thrawn trilogy, which is amazing to think about. So that really lends me to asking this. Obviously it was controversial, and people still complain about this on Reddit from time to time, the fact that Zahn killed off Thrawn after his 3rd book. Freddie, how do you think that Thrawn is going to go out in canon? Obviously, spoiler for the end of Rebels here. 5, 4, 3, 2. Here's the spoiler. Okay, he's zapped off by the space whales with Ezra into the unknown, and we don't know where that story's going. But it does seem like, increasingly so, that they are going to finish that story. So has it happened? Is it a knife to the back, Freddie? Is it can it possibly be as poetic as it was in The Last Command?
See, this is where I feel a little different of canon Thrawn versus Legends Thrawn. Legends Thrawn, you were actually cool seeing him die, right? You didn't mind seeing him die. It was finally, finally this guy's done for.
Right.
But I don't quite feel like that with canon Thrawn. I feel like I almost don't want to see him die, but it has to, and it has to be pretty immense, in my opinion. It has to be like defending a planet. I don't know. It's going to be intense.
You want to see him have like a redemptive ending?
I would love to see a redemptive ending.
See, I hadn't even contemplated that until you said that. That would make sense. That would definitely make sense. What about you, Cheryl? How does he go out? I know you've got something good here for us.
No,
Kill Thrawn for us.
I have in all caps the audacity of having me contemplate this question. Like, I will not entertain it. I just want him to live forever. No, I think redemptive act would be like super cool. My first watch of Rebels, I totally thought that they died. Like, I thought that really? Because the Purgle's tentacles had come in through the windows, that it was open to space, so that when they jumped, they would have, like, died. So I was a mess. I was bawling. And then everyone was
Because you
like,
thought
they're
both
alive.
Thrawn and Ezra
I
were
thought,
dead. Yeah.
I thought Ezra and Thrawn were dead. And then people were like, no, they're like still alive and just out there. And I was like, what? So, yeah.
I either want to see the Bendu do it, or I am the Bendu,
He took
and
out
you're
the
dead,
Bendu,
Thrawn.
though. Thrawn
Or-
killed
or-
Bendu.
Oh, is
Poor
Bendu
Gullet.
dead? Rip for Bendu. F's in the chat for Bendu. Sorry, Bendu. I've only seen those twice. It's been a couple years. I do think another way to do it, obviously, he's introduced in canon through Rebels, which takes some liberties in terms of its the way that it plays around with the Force and breaking the fourth wall, and you got the world between worlds. I want to see one of two things happen. Either I want to see Ezra access the world between worlds to go into the Thrawn trilogy story and have Rook kill him again in canon. So we're going to go into Legends through the world between worlds, and or I think it would make sense for him to be like imprisoned eternally in a piece of living art, kind of like Harry Potter, but like more grotesque. Like in Harry Potter, it's like the idea is that they're just like an echo of their personhood is within the painting. I'm talking about some kind of a crazy Sith Force maneuver that imprisons him in a painting. He would love it. He would just admire himself 24/7, don't you think, Freddie?
I could. Oh man, that'd be so vain.
He would love it. And I want to have him. I want to have the same line. It was so artistically done. I mean, it's just one of the best lines for
So
real. No,
artfully done.
you're
How
making a
about
good
that?
point, Freddie. He really is established in a different way. Although Zahn does really take pains to say that he tries to make the stories between canon and Legends with Thrawn as cohesive as possible. He really has characterized him quite differently, much more heroic, much more of an anti-hero, don't you think?
Absolutely, and that's why I feel it doesn't have the same reaction to me. Seeing Thrawn die in Legends, it's definitely a breath of fresh air once he's gone.
It is, except for like in hindsight, we love him so much that it's kind of sad to see him go. I mean, because he's got so much potential.
Yes, it's very
compared
sad.
It's sad.
Yes. I don't like seeing him die.
No, I don't either. But he does do some pretty gruesome, villainous things in these books. Just the book begins with him like wiping out this planet, right? Definitely not something that is it Yu-Gi-Oh? Yu-Gi-Oh?
No, he doesn't wipe out the planet. He takes it intact with no casualties.
There's definitely some bombing going on in the opening pages of the comic. I was reviewing the graphic novel adaptation. I'll post pictures in the Discord channel. We can argue about it there. But let's move on from Thrawn. One of the things that Zahn really introduces in an incredible way in this series that really gains steam throughout Legends is Rogue Squadron. Actually, really something that Zahn introduces in this series. That then Stackpole and Alston run wild with in the years to come throughout the 90s. And one of Rogue Squadron's shining moments in this book, did you catch this in your read-through, Freddie? That Wedge at one point says, "Okay, Rogue Squadron, assemble Porkins formation, and we're going to go into battle." What do you think Porkins formation is, Freddie?
I can think of two things. One of them is they just go straight into the enemy without disregard for their own life. That's one. Two, I honestly have no idea. I was thinking like a Big Mac while you're flying and a big gulp in the other hand.
A big gulp. A Baja Blast. Oh my gosh.
Something.
That's amazing.
I really don't know.
Well, I like the way that Porkins eventually is characterized in the Rogue Squadron books, that he was like a hero of the rebellion. Anybody basically who had died in that Death Star battle, they sacrificed their lives. They basically achieve like immortal status. For us, he achieves immortal status in a different way. The fact that there's a character named Porkins, and it's so obviously, Luke is kind of making a fat joke at his expense, and he goes out in this blaze of glory. But the Legends writers do a great job in trying to make Porkins redemptive. Make Porkins redemptive again.
Can I point
Make a
out the
hat.
fact that it's called the Porkins Belly Run?
Is it really?
It is. I looked on Wikipedia.
So you looked this up, Cheryl. What is it? What is the Porkins
Oh
formation?
god, no, I can't explain it, but I just I looked it up on Wikipedia and I put in Porkins formation and it came up do you mean the Porkins belly run? And I was like, wow.
Well, now we know that it's on the Wook, so everybody can do some Googling and get back to me on what is the Porkins formation. If you could make your own Rogue Squadron formation, what would yours be called? Everybody, let me know in the Legends Look Back Discord. We've obviously got some humorous moments along the way. Another moment that I find really humorous in the book is this entire notion of this smuggling coalition. And it's one of the major, 3 or 4 pillars of this book that Card has to get all of the smugglers to team up with the New Republic in order to basically take down Thrawn and come to the aid of the New Republic. Freddie, I know that you liked the smuggler stuff in the book. For me, it was some of the cringiest. Does this make any sense that the smugglers would need to form a coalition to what does a smuggler coalition even do?
They set prices for smuggled goods, black market prices. They have update meetings for shareholders.
Well, that sounds even more boring than the first third of The Last Command.
I think it's interesting because you bring up a good point. A smuggler's alliance, right? It's basically like oh man, I'm gonna take it to Star Wars Galaxies, but there's
here we are.
Get your toothpick holders out and pour an adult beverage in it. That's what they call it at Disney, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I actually really do like it because even though it is the underground needs some form of management and organization, right? Like there is a hierarchy, and it may be primitive, I guess, but it needs to happen for the survival of the smugglers because, I mean, in order for that industry to thrive, you do kind of need that thieves' honor, right? And with that honor, there are some rules, and in this section, you kind of see they're going, they're trying to pick a side, basically. Like, why should we pick sides?
Right.
That's not really something the underground does. So it's curious to see how they go about it.
I'm just imagining somebody asking Card in a cantina, so what do you do for a living? And Card says, well, I'm middle management for the criminal underground.
Middle management.
What do you think, Cheryl? Does this make any sense? Pick a side between me and Freddie here, because I disagree vehemently. I think the smuggling coalition doesn't make a lick of sense, other than the fact that in watching the original trilogy, we like Han, we like Lando. They're both smugglers, right? They're both of this seedy underbelly of the galaxy, and so this is a way for us to just kind of get more of them, and they're likable, and now they're on the good side, right? What do you think, Cheryl? Who's right here, me or Freddie?
I'm gonna go with Freddie. No surprise
every time.
There. Because to work together instead of against one another can ease the logistics of operations a bit. Obviously, they're always going to benefit from both powers, like the Empire and the Republic, operating at the same level of influence, because then they're always going to ensure that they have a market and customers on either side of the conflict. But they know what it's like to operate under complete Imperial rule. The Empire wasn't really in the habit of offering fair trials. They usually opted for execution more often than not.
That's a good point.
So, helping to ensure the New Republic had a fighting chance also ensured their chance at profits and just, survival. So
it's like, hey, join the New Republic. We don't pay as well, but you're less likely to get executed if you mess up. So, there's a good reason there. Mara then ends up at the end of the book kind of taking on this role of being the middle manager for the criminal underworld, and she's going to help be the liaison between the New Republic and this smuggler coalition, which at least, on the bright side, one of the things I like about this is it does open the door for us to get more Booster Tarek stories in Legends, which is going to happen in many books to come, where Booster ends up being called in to save the day with his... Doesn't he have a red Star Destroyer? Isn't his Star Destroyer the Air Adventure? Isn't it candy apple red, Freddie?
I think so, yeah. It's like a hot rod.
A hot rod Star Destroyer that he had stolen. Gotta love Booster, one of my very favorite characters. But we're talking about Mara here stepping in on behalf of the smugglers and helping with this new coalition that's formed. One of the points about Mara, from an overarching standpoint for me that really... struck me in a different way this read-through is the fact that in the final battle, we're talking about the final battle quite a bit in tonight's episode, the final battle between Luke and Sabayoth, and you got the Vornskers, and Leia and Han end up coming in to mess things up. I mean, save the day. In this final battle against Luuk, the clone, he, of course, has Luke's lightsaber that was cut off from his hand on Cloud City. And then at the end of the book, Luke bequeaths this lightsaber, his father's lightsaber, to Mara Jade. This lightsaber, of course, in canon, in recent years, within the last 5 years, has taken on a new level of significance, of course, becoming Rey's lightsaber. The lightsaber that Finn takes up in The Force Awakens, the lightsaber that's ripped in half. It's now known as, not as Rey's lightsaber, not as Anakin's lightsaber or Luke's lightsaber. It's known as the Skywalker Legacy Saber. And with all of that canon baggage, sequel trilogy baggage that I'm taking into my recent read-through, I'm kind of left surprised that Luke gives this to Mara. Cheryl, as a big, sequel trilogy fan, Ben Solo fan, hey, he wants that saber. The saber is mine! Do you think that this was the right thing to give this to Mara? What claim does she have to this legendary saber?
I look at it from a much more sentimental point of view. I love this moment. Luke is giving Mara a piece of himself, and it shows how much he values her and cares about her.
That's a good point.
The lightsaber is a gift of protection, and it also shows that he knows that her path is to follow the guidance of the living force. So it symbolizes Luke's
Great
trust
podcast,
and faith
by the way.
in her. Yes. It symbolizes Luke's trust and faith in her, and it also shows he's probably hoping that she chooses to become a Jedi.
Oh, that's such a sentimental answer. Oh my gosh, that hit me right in the heart feels. Oh my goodness, to think about the fact that Luke is basically giving it as a down payment and saying, like, you're going to follow the light side. Just try not to lose any limbs along the way. I love that. What do you think, Freddie? I kind of came in cynically to this to say, well, why does Mara get this saber? Cheryl's making a great point. What do you think, Freddie?
It was Luke's proposal to Mara.
Oh, you think so? Who needs a wedding ring when you've got a lightsaber?
That's honestly what I see. He's giving it to her, saying, like, you're gonna be my partner in this. You're going to see the things. You're gonna follow. You're gonna come with me. And I think he trusts her in the situations that Luke can't succeed in. He knows that she'll be able to do it, I think. And he realizes, like, how good of a partner she's going to be. And you're right. That's his investment. That lightsaber is basically like, this is my father's heirloom. I'm giving it to you because you're the only person I would trust it with.
Oh, that's beautiful. Now, this saber, of course, does go on beyond Mara. Other people end up using this saber to various ends throughout Legends. I don't want to spoil it here. Freddie, we do have coming up at some point in 2021, we're planning on doing a Legends Lightsabers episode, so we'll talk about it more then. Should have some fun fodder for discussion with that. But this saber definitely being the most legendary of sabers in Legends. The fact that it was somehow retrieved from Luke's hand that was then made into a clone named Luuk that he then passes on to Mara is just so incredibly wacky, and yet takes on this whole new level of significance and meaning. And it takes this saber that once we get the prequels and now the sequels, Legends has its own spin on the significance of the saber, and I absolutely love it, don't you?
Yeah, it's pretty fascinating. I just love that they had to name him Luke. That part just gets me every single time.
Hold on to Luuk. We're going to talk about him more in a minute. One of the things that I do love, and I did not love this character as much in other read-throughs as I did this time around. I gotta say, I really fell deep in love with none other than Sabayoth himself in this read-through. Just how incredibly committed he is to his own bit of being the creepy old man Jedi who's going to take over the world, who believes he's good and he's right, but in fact is just so incredibly demented and evil. And one of the points in the book that really gets me feeling like Sabayoth is paving the way for other misguided dark Jedi in Legends is when he says that he wants to take over the galaxy to save it from itself. Do you remember this, guys? It's early on in the book. Sabayoth and Thrawn are basically arguing because Sabayoth's wanting to do things his way, and Thrawn is trying to keep Sabayoth from getting too far out of hand. And he says specifically he wants to take over the galaxy to save it from itself. He says that the galaxy is so messed up, they need a ruler to set them right. This honestly becomes a pretty common line of reasoning among Sith Lords. Darth Kaitis believes this. Darth Krayt, they both fall into this line of thinking. Freddie, what do you think is the flaw, though, in this line of thought? It seems like anybody who ever comes up with this idea that, oh, I know, I'll save the galaxy by ruling it to save it from itself. I'll go down this dark path in order to save the galaxy. Why is that always doomed for failure, at least in Legends?
Well, it's funny because you see this theme in real life, or well, I shouldn't say real life. In other franchises, you've got the Marvel franchise where
in real
they
life,
take a
like
very-
Marvel Comics.
like that's my real life. That's where I live. Everyone, find me there. But I definitely feel like it's a very strong theme because it's one of those ethical decisions where you've got two choices. You want to save the world. How do you do it? Well, if I control everybody, then I can save the world, right? That's okay. I see where you're going, but you're kind of heading down the wrong ethical choice, right? Like their cause seems noble until you look into it, and ultimately, you can't control people. You can't control individuals who are not made to be. They're made to be individual, first of all, because everyone has their own skills and skill sets. And we wouldn't be able to perform as a race, right? Now I'm getting like into the real life part. We wouldn't be able to. I guess we wouldn't be able to perform every single task. So we need someone else to be better at something than we are, right? And the universe is just not down for complete unification unless you have cyborgs.
Yeah, we're not going to have uniformity. There's not going to be complete peace. No single ruler is going to set things right, especially not by domination, at least from my perspective. What do you think, Cheryl?
Yeah, you put, he says he wants to take over the galaxy to save it from itself. I'm like, does he though? Like, Sith Lords only want power to fulfill their own selfish desires. So, like, who's to say the galaxy even needs saving? Saving from what? Like,
yeah,
he just wants what all Sith Lords want, which is absolute control and power, and to fulfill whatever their personal agenda is. So he's shown he only seeks to dominate what he views as lesser beings. So this is always doomed to fail because all sentient beings have free will and thought, and thus they will always resist.
Yeah, I think it's really beautiful to think about the fact that he doesn't actually want to save the galaxy. He just wants to dominate it because he enjoys power. But I do think that Sabaoth believes his own lie. I think he's really good at self-deception. He's really good at convincing himself of his own nonsense, and we all are. And it's one of the things that's so sad about Sabaoth is that he trying to clone Force users doesn't work well in Legends, especially that ends up being canonized to a decent extent. I'm trying to remember where it kind of comes in a little more solidly than it does in this trilogy, that it just typically doesn't go well. So for him, there's been this backfire, and there's these missing links, and his mind is deteriorating. And for me, it's this idea that he has just come to believe his own lies. He doesn't even understand that he's a clone, right? And so Luke is shattering his own vision. I find him to be a sympathetic character to a certain degree, not much, but to a certain. I mean, you can't have abs like that unless you really believe you are in this for the right reasons. But it really is a really tragic line of reasoning, whether in real life, in Marvel, or in Star Wars, that we're gonna control the galaxy to save it from itself. One of my guiding principles in life, in religion, as well as in Star Wars, is freedom. As Cheryl said, freedom, free will, and that's where love comes from. Like that humans, we are chaotic, and yet the chaos comes with love, and it comes with free will and the ability to choose. And each individual person's choices matter. And that's one of the things that he just doesn't seem to understand. He's always putting other people down, viewing himself on a high pedestal. And like I said last week, he just needs to eat a Snickers, right? As soon as he gets a Snickers, it's all going to fall in line. You know, when Sabaoth is killed, though, there's this And I loved this part. Absolutely loved this part. Talked my wife's ear off about this. And now we're going to get into it on the podcast with people who actually care about this stuff. When Sabaoth is killed, there's an explosion of dark side energy. And Zahn specifically says that, he says explicitly in the text that this was just like when Palpatine fell down the reactor shaft in Return of the Jedi. He exploded in a storm of dark force energy. Now, obviously, other authors and storytellers and legends don't end up going with this, although it seems pretty clearly here that Zahn is trying to establish this, that whenever a Darksider is killed, they explode with dark side energy, which I think is so epically Legends. Freddie, why do you think that this didn't become the way of Darksiders in Legends? Why don't we see more Dark Force users explode epically, Freddie?
Honestly, that's a good question, and I have to say that the big mistake is that we have not seen enough, in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely.
And just let me put it in this term, right? So every time a Jedi dies, we see their ghost, right? Because they continue life. But I feel like the Sith hoard the Force. It'd be nice to see them go the opposite way, which is just complete explosion.
Explosions. Annihilation. Yeah, I mean, you got Force ghosts for the Jedi. They can have eternal life. The Sith, they try to hoard it, and then it just backfires all over everybody. Why do you think that this isn't something that happens more often in Legends, Cheryl? Do you wish that this had become something that was the way of Darksiders in Legends?
No, I thought honestly, I thought Palps exploded because he was thrown down a reactor shaft while
that's what makes more sense. That really is what makes more sense.
Yeah,
he is shooting electricity
consider it like a character
into the reactor.
Yeah, so I'm glad it didn't become a solidified thing.
One of these days, if we ever get Timothy Zahn on this podcast, and I am determined to make it happen, we are going to ask him this question. Mark my words, it's going to happen. Let me put a fun spin on it, Cheryl. Let's have you go first on this one. What would you like to have explode out of you when you die? Because for Sabaoth, it's dark side energy. When you die, what's going to come out in the explosion?
The tears of toxic mansplaining fanboys.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. My answer is noodles. Just noodles exploding everywhere. You're welcome, Meg.
Nope.
If I ever know that I'm about to die, I'm just going to carbo load all the noodles just for Meg's sake. What about you, Freddie? What do you think? What's going to explode out of you when you die? Just Star Wars
whiskey.
Galaxies?
Oh, yeah, that too.
What'd you
Star
say?
Wars Galaxies and whiskey.
Whiskey. Yeah, it's possible. It's possible. Well, continuing down this wacky line of reasoning, one of the major things that is the pillar of this book is cloning. Obviously, we're dealing with this deranged, evil Jedi clone in Sabaoth. We're dealing with this clone army that is serving Thrawn's forces. We're, of course, dealing with the legendary Lu'uk as well. So, Freddie, what would you do if you had 200,000 clones? What would you do with all these clones, man? If you were in Thrawn's space boots, what would you possibly do?
Have you seen? Let's see, what is it? Scott Pilgrim.
Yeah, I saw it in theaters in high school, but
I would have a lot of really cool friends, and unfortunately it'd all be me. But but yeah, I don't think I'd do anything other than just have a hangout time, call my buddies, see how they're doing.
So you're telling me if you had all these clones, you would just chill and call?
I'd chill with all of them.
Oh my god!
How about you, Cheryl?
I would humanitarian and disaster relief aid.
Okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
And I would kill all the poachers. You're done.
Okay, poachers and humanitarianism. I was just gonna say do my laundry and ironing and unload the dishwasher.
Come on,
some of
guys.
these things.
Think about helping others with all your clones.
When my wife was doing student teaching in college, she was elementary ed major. She was in a very small town in Arkansas, Bald Knob, Arkansas, which is a real town, by the way. There was, I kid you not, this actually happened. There was a family that had a monkey. in their house. They bought the monkey as a pet. They were trying to train it to do household chores for them, such as do the laundry. No, I'm serious. But then this was at the parent-teacher conference that this question came up. They were like, "So tell us about the monkey." And then the mom said, "Yeah, that wasn't going very well. So what we did is we bought another monkey who was better trained to teach the monkey that we already bought how to do our laundry." So they ended up with 2 monkeys to try to do their laundry. I know this story sounds absurd because it is, but it is true. However, I would probably take a page out of their playbook and have my clones teach the other clones how to do my laundry. And somebody please screenshot the look on Cheryl's face with my monkey laundry story.
Like, is it not illegal to have monkeys?
Different states have different laws surrounding owning monkeys.
As slaves?
As slaves? I mean, they're pets, not slaves. Well, Google it. Okay, we're moving on. What exactly, though? Obviously, we're talking about the ethics of owning monkeys in the United States, but Cheryl, what do you think are the ethics of cloning in the galaxy far, far away? Because this seems like really murky territory, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's definitely...
To be cloning an army?
Yeah, no, it's definitely nefarious, because they were created for an army in war, so... Yeah, clones were made to be totally obedient, so taking order without question, and they didn't have the free will to choose for themselves what their life would be. So, like, because the cloners, like, obviously in canon it's a little bit different, but the cloners encoded the directive in them, in their biology, to make it impossible for them to disobey a specific order. So basically, clones are slaves.
Yeah. Yeah, we dealt with that back when Meg was on our episodes about Republic Commando. We talked about this quite a bit. Obviously, Karen Traviss has a very direct agenda in trying to show that the Jedi are just as, if not more evil than the Separatists in the way that they are using clones and not treating them like people, but instead just treating them like disposable objects. Obviously, the Clone Wars were still very much up in the air, however, when this trilogy was being written. Freddie, what do you think the ethics are of cloning in the galaxy far, far away? Pre-Clone Wars, mind you.
Yeah, I keep thinking about how Cheryl would send her clones to do good things, and I literally just want to hang out with mine, and I can't stop thinking about that. But I think when it comes to cloning, right, it goes to the same thing as dominion over an individual. Even if it is a clone, right, it's still created, not exactly the same, but the science is, like, if you look at it on paper, it's almost about the same. So why aren't clones considered the same thing as the original copy, right? It's a living individual. Obviously, in the Clone Wars, they or in Star Wars, and during the Clone Wars, they were all programmed, and that is even sketchier to me, because now you're just specifically telling them how to think, what to think, no feelings, go in and die, and then another clone's going to come out in a couple days.
Yeah.
So it's super. Man,
if you think about it for more than 5 seconds, it really is sickening, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what else is sickening is this story that Wes just shared in the chat about the spider monkey that his dad used to have as a kid. That entire time you were talking, Freddie, I was just trying so hard to keep it together because it is absolutely insane. And this show has really gotten off the rails. And I'm so sorry I ever brought up cloning or monkeys or any of this. You know what is just as wild as that story that I told, even wilder than the story that Wes just shared, is Lu'uk. Okay, Lu'uk, I think, is one of the greatest twists in this entire trilogy, because for the most part, the trilogy really holds up after all these years. Thrawn's tactatory, is that a word? Thrawn's genius as a tactician. All of those maneuvers make sense. The way that you can see him outsmart the New Republic, even the brightest minds like Akbar and Bel Iblis. There's so many things in this trilogy that really holds up. Luke's journey to restart the Jedi. Mara is such an incredible character. However, there's one thing that really stands out as especially... Ooh, I'm not even sure what the right word is for Lu'uk. What would you describe... What's the word you would use, Cheryl, for Lu'uk? Is he more, like, entertaining, or is Lu'uk just straight cringe?
I I mean, I thought it was a good plot twist. Like, yeah, I didn't see it coming.
It's like Luke has a clone
Yeah,
from his hand.
named Luke.
He can't talk.
Specifically. Yeah,
Right, because he
can't talk,
wasn't.
Yeah.
He
I mean,
didn't learn how to read and write. He just learned how to wage war.
Yeah, I just like it that it just helped Mara's character in that it's a means to give Mara the chance to give in to the voice inside her head and finally silence it, and she also gets to kill Luke without really killing Luke, and she's actually like, because she's saving the actual Luke when she does it, and so she gets to give in while also proving herself at the same time, so it's like a win-win.
Definitely. Yeah, that makes sense. I remember my first read through when I realized, oh, she can kill him, and that totally resolves this plot wise. Cheryl, did you know who Thrawn messed it up again? Who Zahn wanted to originally have be the clone in this book?
Mm-mm.
It was originally going to be. Do you know this one, Freddie?
Was it Chewbacca?
Chewbacca. Yeah.
Do you like how easily that just slipped
You
out?
really throw it out of the back of the throat there. Yeah. If I ever clone you, me and Eddie are gonna have a wild time out in Galaxy's Edge. All right, Freddie, what's your stance on Luke?
You didn't answer your own question, Jared. You said, "Did you know?" and then you didn't tell us.
Did I know what?
Who the original
original clone.
Oh yeah, I got off track. Obi-Wan Kenobi. Yeah, he wanted to do a clone of Obi-Wan, and it was vetoed by George Lucas. Yeah.
Ooh,
Oh, that's probably a good idea.
interesting.
Yeah, it was not going to be the right move at all.
No.
I'm not sure that Luke is the right move either, but it's something. I like that it at least gets the lightsaber back into the story, which I appreciate for going forward in Legends. And it also makes for a really cool 4-way lightsaber fight. You know, you've got Sabayoth and Luke and Mara all in the same battle, and then eventually it's the Vornskers that take out Sabayoth, which I think was a really good twist. Okay, yeah, they take him out. They're the ones that get the credit.
Mara kills him.
Yeah, she decapitates him, right?
No, she thrusts up because that's her kneeling before him. He sees the vision of her kneeling before him because she's like cutting all the rocks away, and then she like lunges forward, she kneels, and then she thrusts up with the lightsaber and kills him.
I've got a picture I'm going to throw up in the Legends Look Back Discord that is absolutely my favorite piece of art from this entire the graphic novel adaptation. That is Luke fighting Sabayoth when Sabayoth is doing his Force Lightning. I mean, his sparkly fingers. And Mara's on the floor, having been taken out. I mean, it's an incredible piece of art. Now, I'll share it in the Discord channel for everybody to take a look at. So it's a great depiction of that. However, I want one of what Cheryl is describing. I'll have to look that up and see what it looks like. Exactly who gets the credit for taking him out. I'm attributing it to the Vornskers. I think Cheryl's right, but I did like that. They wouldn't have been able to do it without the Vornskers, do you think?
No, yeah. Luke distracts him with the Vornskers and then gives Mara her opening.
So, Freddie, what's your stance on Luke? Was this the right move? Should he have just stuck with Sabayoth and Thrawn? Was it right to introduce another villain this late in the series?
Yeah, I could see that. It's almost like the final challenge, right? The final challenge of his Jedi ship, if that makes any sense. Really becoming a master, he has to defeat himself, right? And if Luke is anything like Luke or Luke, the other way around, they're gonna have the same abilities in terms of physical abilities, in terms of possibly force abilities, right? And of course, Sabayoth doing his thing and enforcing, or giving him that power as well. It's a real challenge. I can't say, the first time I read this, I had the same reaction that I had when I talked about clones of myself. I just could not imagine seeing another replica of me, and just it was the weirdest feeling for some reason. And every time I read it and I see Luke get revealed, I have that same weird feeling, which is, I guess it's a level of cringe, but it's more of like it would just freak me out. Like, what the heck? How did you get me?
I guess that would be really unsettling, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
I like that it plays off of what is the most existential I would say the darkest moment in all of The Empire Strikes Back, which is the Dagobah Force vision where Luke, strikes down Vader only to discover, boom, it was him all along under the helmet, and like this is who you can become if you continue down this path. So I like that it's a way of kind of riffing on that motif and bringing it to the next level, and to such a legendary level, especially in this book. It's so bonkers, and I love it for that. One other thing about that entire final battle, it's happening there in the stronghold in Mount Tantus on Wayland. At one point, the book says that Palpatine's stronghold contains, and I quote, Palpatine's private mementos and souvenirs. So, what in the world, besides clones, do you think Palpatine has got stored in his mountain vault, being guarded by a dark Jedi? What do you think he's got stored in there? How many Funko Pops do you think he's got in there, Cheryl?
I don't know if he's got Funko Pops. I imagine he's got, the galaxy's
got souvenirs.
greatest emperor mug that Vader gave him, right?
World's best boss, yeah.
Yes. I think
Lego Palpatine would totally have that one.
Totally, right? He's got all those late night TV infomercial purchases that you make because you're like, oh my gosh, I have to have this. It's the greatest thing, and then you just never use it. So he's got all those in there, I guess.
Oh my gosh, he's a late night
flex
shopper.
tape in there.
Due to his late age, his advanced age, he might have one of those things that inverts him so he could stretch his spine out a little bit.
He's got a shake weight.
Hey, I've got one of those, Freddie. I've got an inversion table. I hang upside down for a few minutes every day. But you're talking about the thing where you lay on the floor and just stretch yourself. Yeah, I've seen those. Yeah, those are a waste of money. Inversion table, however, I enjoy. I like to pretend like I'm Michael Keaton's Batman. Sometimes I take a Legends book in there with me and read it upside down. That's a great idea. He's a late night shopper.
Spider-Man kissing upside down, how that felt.
No.
That'd be weird.
Not kissing anybody, just reading Legends books. Freddie, what's your idea? What's Palpatine got stored in that garage there? He's such a hoarder, don't you think?
Some crayons, coloring books, Star Wars coloring books.
Connect the dots.
Yeah, a couple show side. What is it?
Sideshow collectibles.
Yeah.
Those $250 Obi-Wans.
I got an Obi-Wan.
Did you?
Yeah, he's on his way.
You got the one that's between episodes 3 and 4?
Mm-hmm.
That's the best Star Wars collectible ever made, man.
That's why I had to get it.
I've been thinking about getting that for years. That's incredible. You have to show it off on stream once you've got it. We're having way too much fun on this episode tonight. Way too much fun between the monkey stories and the hoarding in the mountain, the late night shopping. So one final game we're going to play before we close it out. What a ride it has been. Thank you for joining us, Cheryl. We've really enjoyed having you for such thought-provoking conversations. I mean, you've really taken us to new levels of depth. And then instead we just drag you through the mud with monkey stories and clones. And all right, one final game. Obviously, what sets Thrawn apart as such an incredible villain is the fact that he's an art connoisseur, right? He's got this redemptive quality where, hey, he's cultured. He may be evil. He may fight for the Empire. He might annihilate your planet, but at least he is well-rounded, right? And in particular, this trilogy does this so often, where he will examine a person's piece of art or a planet's piece of art and then find the way to defeat them, right? So this happens with Garmbel Iblis, happens with Admiral Akbar, it happens other times. So what we're going to do on this episode of Legends Look Back, and I want everybody in the Discord, if you can, to participate if you are willing. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to take one piece of art that we have displayed in our own homes, in our dwelling places, all right? Whether you're in a house or an apartment or a tent, doesn't matter. Whatever art you've got hanging up, all right? Show off one piece of art, and we are all, as a community, going to theorize on how Thrawn could use it to defeat us in battle. Okay, how could Thrawn analyze this and take us down? I'm going to go first, because I've already pulled mine up. Give everybody else a chance to pull theirs up. This is a piece of art hanging in my wife's art studio. We've got my wife's an artist. This is a little corner of the room set aside for my kids to do their own art. My wife had this artsy-fartsy idea to hang up art that the kids had painted as if like their own art is on display. Spoiler alert, it's mostly nothing. It's just random things that they've scribbled onto paper. So this is the most colorful and largest format piece of art we've got hanging in our art studio, and it is this. Just splotches of, you can see my ring light there, splotches of of paint
I love it.
onto this canvas. How in the world could Thrawn use this to eliminate me in battle? You wanna lead us off, Freddy? What's the plot hole in my piece of art there that that Thrawn can use to eliminate me?
Oh man, you had to go this route too, the abstract route. You know what? That's what I'm going with. You're unconventional. You're abstract. So
Well, he isn't. His kids are.
yeah. Well, okay. So he knows you've got young kids. Let's go
Yeah,
with that
that's
one. He knows that you.
Thank you, Freddie, for saying that Thrawn is going to leverage my children against me. Yeah, that's especially dark. I show off a colorful piece of children's art. You say that an evil overlord's going to ransom them.
Let's just assume he's like, this was made from the spawn of Jared. Let's just go after them. That seems like the easiest way to do it.
I knew you were going to take it there. What do you think, Cheryl?
Oh God, I don't know. I think I can't analyze
That's
a
fine. All right.
person's psychological.
Thrawn could if he was here.
blind
All right. So
spots because
how about the two of you? Let everybody in the Discord chime in on this. You can play along. We'll see who our best Thrawn is. Thrawn of the week. It looks like you're ready there, Freddie. What you got, man? What's your art?
Okay, it's pretty big, so I'm gonna try to see if I can fit this in the camera. Just give me a second.
The maneuvering that we have to do to play along with this goofy game. Oh, okay. We got some actual Star Wars art here. We got Luke and the land speeder for those who are listening. It's Luke staring off. It's not into the sunset because the twin suns are behind him. It's beautiful, a gorgeous piece of art. Kind of a riff on the binary sunset. Freddie, I'm filling in our audio listeners on what they could be seeing here.
Yeah.
What's the significance of that? Do you know who the artist is?
Yeah, so it's called Edge of Destiny. Every time I go to a celebration, I always try to buy some art.
Oh,
And
look at you.
this
Thrawn
one
would be
is-
proud.
This one is Edge of Destiny. I'll leave the picture in the Discord and the artist as well. Give some credit there, but it was 2015 celebration, and it's basically it's 70. What is it? 48 out of 100. So
It's numbered.
rare.
Cool.
Yeah, but it's definitely one of my favorites. And just looking at it, I'll post it in the Discord. You see this like the formation of who Luke will be. It's the very beginning when you realize, in my opinion, this is what I see. He realizes that things are changing. He's got C-3PO and R2 there, and this is really the keystone of the evolution of Luke, in my opinion.
Oh, wow. Look at you. You're such an art critic. What's funny in this whole discussion is I've actually got a poster of Thrawn that was inside one of the Thrawn books from the last trilogy. Not the current Thrawn trilogy or the Thrawn trilogy that we're talking about. The first canon Thrawn trilogy. This is a debate, a long-standing debate
that
I've...
wasn't like an actual trilogy.
Right, the unofficial canon Thrawn trilogy. This is a long-standing debate between me and Meg. In my opinion, there is one and only one Thrawn trilogy, and it's what we're talking about tonight. Anyway, I've got a poster, I've got art of Thrawn staring at me as we talk about what Thrawn would think of our art. It's extremely meta, and he's like piercing with his red eyes right into my soul. It's actually kind of freaking me out. All right, so before I get any more paranoid, what you got, Cheryl? What's your art? Oh, look at that. It looks a lot like Kylo Ren without his helmet on.
That is Ben Solo.
Ben Solo, okay. Wow, that's gorgeous.
That
Absolutely.
is that's Anna Mendez. She does black and white pencil drawings.
Wow.
That's awesome.
I will also post in Discord and do links to her.
Absolutely incredible. So how would, we didn't speculate on Freddy, how would Thrawn use these pieces of art to demoralize the two of you and defeat you in battle?
He would just distract me with really tortured, beefy men.
So
With
Thrawn
broad chests.
he would have a Nogri strike team infiltrate the bridge of your starship, Cheryl, and then Thrawn would come out from behind a door wearing nothing but high-waisted pants.
Yes.
And then you would lose the battle.
Yep.
Okay. And for Freddy, all Thrawn would have to do is give you a numbered piece of art, and then you would get distracted and
Put some C4 on the back. Done.
it's over. Absolutely over. So Thrawn, he would have to bait you with having the most beautiful piece of art at Star Wars Celebration for you to want to purchase. So everybody else, chime in the Discord. Also, feel free, in celebration of Thrawn's love of art, post a fun piece of art that you've got hanging in your home. It can be Star Wars related. It can not be Star Wars related. It can be art that you've done. It can be your favorite piece of Star Wars art that's not even something that you own. It's fair game. Feel free to post in the Legends Look Back Discord channel. We want to know, what art do you care about and why? And we'll demoralize you with it, just as Thrawn would. Well, this has been an absolutely blast of an episode. But you know what else is going to be a blast? Next week's show. Am I right, Freddie? You ready for this, man?
Excited.
I think this is one of the most just absolutely off-the-wall ideas that we have had with Legends Look Back. Next week, grab your space reindeer and your hot cocoa, just like Luke would, for the ultimate Legends Holiday Gift Guide. We're going to be talking about gifts that you could get for the Star Wars fans in your life. We're going to be talking about ways that you could spend the Amazon gift cards that we know we're all going to be getting for Christmas this year, or whatever holiday that you celebrate. We're going to talk about gifts you can get for Star Wars fans, or things that you might just be inspired to purchase for yourself. We're going to be talking about all kinds of fun Star Wars merch and collecting next week, and how to find the best deals here on Legends Look Back, so you won't want to miss it. That does it for this week. Thank you, everybody, for joining us on Let's Look Back. Thank you so much to those who have joined us here live during the show in the chat. Thank you to those who have subbed and have thrown in the bits. We were this close to a hype train, Freddie. Did you see that? We were this close. We had bits flying everywhere and resubs and prime subs. Anyway, thanks, of course, to those who have been here live with us. Thanks especially to Cheryl, our guest, who's done a marvelous job. Thanks also to Meg, our producer. And to Nathan, our video editor. Thank you especially to our incredible patrons, just like Cheryl. You can, of course, get in on the behind the scenes of Utini with access to lots of bonus shows, including Meg's new show, Calf Faves, as well as the new show that our buddy Trevor and Joxy have started, which is absolutely incredible, with some good deep dive Star Wars archives, getting to all the wacky, obscure stuff in the galaxy far, far away. Now that we're live on Twitch, you can help us out by subscribing, either the old-fashioned way or, of course, with Prime Gaming. Also, remember, we want your questions. You can email us at legendslookback@utini.com, or even leave us a voicemail, 508-686-1158. In the meantime, you can also follow us on Twitter. I'm at Jared Q. Mays. Freddie?
At Wake Up Freddy.
Meg?
At McDowell.
And Cheryl?
At Cheryl K. Bell.
Awesome. Look at that. Perfectly orchestrated with all four of us. I loved it. Love it when everybody shows up for their speaking part right here at the ending, when I forget that we're still going to have other people chiming in. Anyway, if you're looking to buy some of these books, want to help support the show, you can head on over to utini.com, click on the Amazon or the Thrift Books or the eBay link in the profile, and we'll get a few cents to help keep the lights on. Another way, of course, to help us out and show your love of Utini is by grabbing some of our incredible legendary swag from our merch store at utini.com/merch, including the Legends Look Back t-shirt, the It Was So Artfully Done tank, or our brand new line of merch with masks, hoodies, and even long-sleeve tees. Remember, if you've read The Last Command or any of these other incredible Legends books that we've discussed on the show, head on over to utini.com and leave us a review. We'd love to know what you think. And remember, of course, to keep the Utini fan code and be a force for positivity in the fandom. May the force be with you.
This is a Utini broadcast.